Every time you go to a theme park, you feel like you're in control. You pick what ride you go on, you pick where you want to eat, and you pick where you want to go next. Right? Well, not exactly. Almost everything you see, from the paths you walk on, to where rides are placed, to even when you start feeling hungry, is planned in advance. And I don't mean it in a creepy mind control way. I mean in a smart design way. Like Disneyland are particularly famous for this. Designers, often called Imagineers, spend years planning how guests walk through the park. Where crowds build up, where they slow down, and where they're most likely to stop and spend money. For example, most major rides aren't at the entrance, they're deeper inside the park. Which means without even thinking about it, you walk past shops, food, and smaller attractions just to get there. And that is only the beginning, because throughout the day, theme parks are constantly nudging your decisions. What you do next, where you go, how long you stay, and even how much you spend. So in this video, we're breaking down exactly how theme parks quietly control your entire day. So once you're inside the theme park, it feels like you can go anywhere. Left, right, straight ahead. It's completely your choice. But here's the thing. Theme parks have something called guided pathways. Basically, the layout subtly encourages you to go in certain directions without forcing you to. For example, when you go to a place like Disneyland, you're not dropped into a random grid of paths. You're guided down Main Street that naturally pulls you forward. The paths are wider in some areas and narrower in some others. Certain routes are more visually appealing, and most of the important areas, they're made easy to reach. So even though it feels like you're exploring, most guests end up taking very specific routes. There's actually something called weenie, and yeah, that is actually what designers call it. It basically means a visual landmark that pulls you forward. Something like a castle at like Disney, or a massive ride like a Thorpe Park that you can see from far away. Your brain just unconsciously locks onto it, and without thinking, you start walking towards it. So you're not actually being told where to go, but your attention is being guided. And when thousands of people follow the same subtle cues at the same time, the park can control crowd flow without needing signs to say, go this way. So it's not about forcing you, it's about making one choice seem more natural than the other. And let's talk about one of the biggest parts of your day at a theme park, waiting in line. Because queues aren't just random lines, they're carefully designed experiences. First, there's the way the queues are shaped. And you've probably noticed how they zigzag back and forth. That's not just to fit more people in. It also makes the line look shorter from the outside. And when you're in it, you're constantly moving a little bit, which makes the time feel faster. Because here's something interesting. A moving line feels shorter than a still one, even if the times are exactly the same. Parks also put a lot of effort into what you see while you're waiting. Detailed theming, music, things to look at, even sometimes interactive elements. All of that is there to keep your brain occupied, so you're not just thinking this is taking forever. There's even a real idea behind this. Occupied time seems to go faster than unoccupied time. So instead of staring at a blank wall for 45 minutes, you're exploring a story, a setting, and looking at stuff that is interesting around you. And then there's wait signs. You know, the screens outside the ride that says like 60 minutes. Those aren't just guesses. They're usually based on real data, like how fast the ride loads or how many people are in the queue. But they're also used to help manage expectations. Because if a ride says 50 minutes and you get in like 30, then it feels like a win. But if it says 30 minutes and you get on 50, then it feels way worse. So even the way time is presented can change the experience of the wait. And when you add all of this together, the shape of the queue, the theming, the movement, you You're not just standing in a line, you're in a system designed to make waiting just a little bit easier. Alright, so at some point of the day this always happens. You weren't thinking about food, but then suddenly you're hungry. And yeah, part of it is just walking around all day. But theme parks are very good at knowing when you're likely going to feel this way, and placing food right in front of your path at the perfect moment. For example, food places are normally placed at high traffic areas, like major ride exits or major ride exits or places where people just naturally slow down. So right when you're tired or taking a break, food is right there. And then there's something else you might not notice at first. Smell. Some theme parks use intentional food preparation setups, like open kitchens or visible snack stands, so you can see or smell stuff like popcorn or baked goods when you walk past. And that's not accidental. Smell is strongly linked with appetite, so if you weren't planning to eat, it can suddenly sound like a great idea. Menus are also designed to be quick to read and easy to decide from. You'll usually see combo meals, simple options, and a clear pricing tiers. That's because when people are tired, hot, or in a rush, they're less likely to spend time comparing lots of choices. So the easier it is to decide, the faster people will buy. And there's one more thing, where you sit. Seating areas are usually placed just far enough from the busiest path so it feels like a break, but still close enough so it doesn't feel like you leave the action. So you can rest, eat, recharge, and then go straight back into the park. So again, it's not forcing you to buy food, but it's making sure when the moment hits, the option is right there, easy to get to, and hard to ignore. So by now you've walked through the park, waited in some lines, maybe grabbed some food, and without really noticing, you probably also spent quite a bit of money in some places. And that's not random either. Theme parks are trying to make spending seem easy and part of the whole experience. One of the most well-known examples is what happens after you get off a ride. You exit, and suddenly you're in a gift shop. This is extremely common across parks and practically in almost every theme park in the world. And there's a reason for it. You've just come off a ride, your energy is high, you're excited, maybe even a bit emotional. That's actually one of the moments where you're most likely to buy something. So instead of making you go find a shop, the shop finds you. Then there's how products are presented. You'll find things like merch to do with the theme park or even just to do with the specific ride. Like I actually got this hat on the opening day of the Minifigure Speedway. Or this hat on the opening day of Hyperia. And that creates like a certain sense of urgency. Like if you don't get it now, then there might not be another chance, just like with my hats. Even pricing plays a role. Instead of like putting them at random prices, they're often like grouped together. Like I think all the hats were like £14. So instead of thinking like too hard about each individual item, you think like, yeah, that seems a bit right. And here's something else. Cashless payments. Contactless cards, Apple Pay, no physical like cash. That might seem like a small thing, but it actually makes spending less negotiable and actually quicker. You're not counting cash, you're just tapping and moving on. And it actually makes you spend more. Since you don't know what you're actually spending, you're not physically giving over cash. And when you add all these things together, where shops are placed, when you see them, the prices, you're not being forced to spend money, but you're being encouraged to, in ways that just seem really natural. Here's something you might not notice. Where rides are placed in theme parks is very intentional. The biggest, most popular attractions, they're practically nowhere near the entrance, like ever. They're deeper into the park. Almost every single park in the world has this. And the reason for this is simple. If the best rides were right at the front, people would crowd in that area and not go anywhere else. So for that reason, parks spread them far apart and far from the entrances. That way, as you go to get to them, you pass shops and food places and sometimes even other rides. It also helps control crowd flow. Instead of everyone going to one place, the park sort of spreads people around because at Thorpe Park, Hyperion is on one side and Stealth is on the other. So even your route through the park is part of the design. Now in more modern parks, there's another layer to this. Your phone. A lot of theme parks now have apps that shows wait times, maps, and even tells you how to get to rides. And that sounds helpful. And it is, but it also influences your decisions. If you open the app and see one ride has 20 minutes and the other has 90, then you're obviously going to go with the shorter one. Which means the app is quietly helping distribute crowds as well as everything else. And some really modern park sometimes actually has something called a virtual queue, when you sort of book on the app and then it gives you a time where you could actually come and ride the ride. But you can't get on other rides if you have one booked. And that changes how you spend your day completely, because now you're trying to fill in time slots like going to eat food or shopping. And once again, it's not forcing you, but it's guiding you on what you're going to do next. Another subtle trick is how the paths are laid out. They don't use grid paths like in cities. Instead, it uses curves, bends, and limitless sightlines. And that does a couple of things. First, it makes the park seem bigger than it actually is because you can't see everything at once. And second, it controls what you see next. You're not overwhelmed with choices. You're shown things one at a time. Sometimes the path even narrows slightly in busier places, and that naturally slows people down. And where do people slow down? Near shops, food, and big visual landmarks. So even the shape of the path you're walking on influences your behaviour and choices in the theme park you're at. Finally, the end of the day. You'd think this is where parks lets go of control, but actually it's one of the most carefully planned parts of the day. Some parks have big shows, parades, fireworks. They're all scheduled late in the day to keep people inside longer, because the longer you stay, the more likely you are to eat again, shop again, maybe squeeze in just one more ride. Even the way you leave is designed. The exits normally lead you through the main area of the park where the shops are still open because they close later than the ride, which encourages you to spend more and more. And by that point, you're tired, happy, and less likely to overthink it. So you grab something on your way out, and just like that, your day ends exactly how the park plans it. The next time you're in a theme park, pay attention to what you want to do next, where you walk, what you see, what you actually feel like doing, because it might feel like total freedom, but behind the scenes, you're doing exactly what the theme park wants. To end the video, because I've actually been reading this book. It is really good. It's not sponsored or anything, but it's really good. It has all the things you might want to learn about theme parks in it. It's called Theme Park Design. It's written by an actual engineer. Really good. Recommend reading it.